And that means we are now live here on our YouTube channel, Tackle Trading's Halftime Report, our daily show where we go through the news, the analysis, the charts, any information that's grabbing our attention across financial markets, break it down for you guys out there, and try to have some fun while we're doing it, while we're also giving you guys some insight. Welcome out, Team Tackle. As always, if you're a veteran of my community, as you're coming in, hashtag Team Tackle in the chat and give me that thumbs up. And if you're new when you're coming in and watching the show, make sure you click subscribe, click the bell, come back and join us each and every day as we do this whenever the markets are open. Got the regular full crew for our Friday here today. News today, we've got some individual corporate news, upgrades on price targets out of Tesla, at a down around the Oracle, ByteDance, TikTok, WeChat kind of conversations about that deadline looming here in a couple of days. We'll break all of that information down. And another economic report out of the Bank of England on interest rate policy. Let's get introductions here, boys. First off, Frankie, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, doing well. Always look forward to hanging out with you guys and the rest of Team Tackle on Fridays. So nice, boring week, right? Didn't break resistance. Haven't yet broke support, although there's it seems like it's not going to.
Either I froze or Frank froze.
I think Frank froze.
I was sitting here and Mark was literally statuesque. And I'm like, if Mark moves his head, I'll know that I'm not frozen. But me and Mark are just looking at each other.
Yeah, we're just looking at each other. I was staring at both of you, wondering when one of you was going to talk. I was like, you know how I hate silence. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I was testing my own personal resolve like Saudi Arabia was today. Just wondering which one of those two are going to break. They're both staring like they're statues. And I know it was Frank who actually got disconnected there. So that was fascinating.
Frank, we got you back?
Frank,
I don't know. Am I back?
You sure are back, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the second time. The first time I thought it was Tim. So
it was Tim.
But was it? Okay. I was going to say, hopefully it's not my internet connection. But it was fun to watch you squirm, Tim.
I got no problem with it. I like silence and awkward moments. I'm the opposite of Matt on that. We approach those two situations very differently.
Oh, you should see some of our conversations sometimes. It's fascinating.
Maddie, how you doing on Friday? It's been a back and forth week, like Frank talked about, very technically driven week. I mean, when you think about the news and the development, it's not like we've had major news coming out this week. Even the Fed policy statement kind of was chalk for what we expect, but support resistance have been developing here. We're down near support. First of all, how you doing, sir?
You know, I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Tim. Excited to be here. Friday Frank Day and you know, Friday Fun Day is my favorite day on the halftime report. It's the end of the week. We're getting ready for the scatter report meeting. We get to hang out with Frank. You know, instead of talking about, hey, what's going on in the market, me and Frankie are talking about fantasy football trades for 30 minutes, and I just absolutely loved every second of it. So, you know, Fridays are my favorite day of the week, I think, like a lot of people in the world. But, you know, Tim, I'm doing good, and I am excited to hang out with the crew here today. It's been a fascinating week in the market. You know, I mean, the Monday and Tuesday, you know, Monday and Tuesday up, a little bit of a slowing momentum candle on Wednesday, downward movement in price on Thursday, now another downward movement in price, and really, you know, in a week where we had three major central banks out there announcing monetary policy, in a week where we saw quite a bit of economic data from a consumer, a retail, a housing, a consumer confidence perspective. You know, we did get quite a bit of economic data this week, and then we have the geopolitical situations over, you know, above the entire marketplace right now with what's going on with TikTok and China and the U.S. relationships. And you know what happened this week? Nothing until it breaks out of this range, because nobody should care one way about anything in the news until we see this marketplace confirm this breakout one way or the other. You know, over the last week and a half, I feel like we've had a pretty good read on the market with those intraday resistance and support zones. And, you know, this to me is just par for the course. You're testing support. We've tested support three other times over the course of the last, you know, week and a half during this sideways neutral condition. And for the most part, support is held, and for the most part, resistance is held here. And so until you see a clear directional movement in the marketplace, I don't think you should, you know, radically alter your stance on the marketplace, because this battle, it takes a while. You know, you might want to say go now, go today, but the market doesn't have to move on your time frame. So
Mhm.
this could consolidate. It could break today. It could break on Monday. It could recover that support bounce and go all the way back into that 34.20 handle, break out of 34.20, show momentum above that 34.50 handle that we've talked about. Anything is in the cards at this point. You can't say one way or the other. This is going to occur because this battle is waging. Support is going to, the market's going to fight to hold support. And if the dam breaks, the market's going to sell on that. If the market holds support, we break out of resistance eventually, that's a buying opportunity. And so whatever we say, in terms of what's happening in the marketplace, we certainly need to be aware of those overriding themes that can develop so that we're ready to take action and we have confidence in taking action. But the simple reality is, it doesn't matter what the news is until we see this market break one way or the other.
Marky, the story of the week here has been technical analysis and the technical conditions as we've been breaking it down. You and Matt have done a fantastic job identifying levels and pockets that we need to pay attention to. Obviously, 3,300 is in play. I got a big picture question for you before we get into the news of the day, Mark. Why is it that when you go through traditional financial media, you don't ever hear a headline say, "Hey, support at 3,300 on the S&P is key today," but you see all this blustering about this and that, about other headlines that may or may not impact the markets. But really, the story of the day is technical analysis. Why is that underreported? And what is your read on these market conditions? Both two
Well,
questions.
I mean, I think the answer is very, very, very easy. And, we've been all over it all week, right? I mean, this week we have been talking about this technical range all week long. Every analyst on the show, it has been all we've talked about because it's all that's mattered. I think the reason you don't see it in mainstream financial media is because they are in the business of getting clicks. They are in the business of getting eyeballs. And plain and simply, the average human being in America has zero knowledge of these kind of things. And so it's like, even if they knew on their end at MarketWatch, at Reuters, at Bloomberg, at CNBC. I mean, every once in a while, CNBC will throw up somebody with a chart, right, for like 14 seconds.
Oh, but it's never a candlestick chart.
Oh, it's
a
usually a trend line chart.
It's not an actual chart. I mean, I'll give you a headline I saw today, guys. Dollar resumes its downward movement in price while gold goes up. And I'm thinking, no, that's not an accurate statement. Both of them are doing nothing today, right? And then if you read the article, it literally states the dollar's down like less than 0.1%, right? And when I read the article, it literally was flatlined, And so you read these headlines, you got to give headlines some type of emotional causation so people will click on that, right? And so they click on it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's not what occurred. But I think it's really, really simple, guys. I really do. They don't know how to read a chart.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do think it is. Well, and even if they did, though, I mean, like, how are they supposed to convey that to an uneducated financial, the financial literacy and the stock market literacy, and certainly the technical analysis literacy of your average American? They wouldn't know what they're talking about. They'd just be confused. And it's the power of education. It's the power of knowledge that, companies like Tackle Trading try to impart on individuals to make them, smart and accurate in their decision-making process.
I honestly, and I don't want to dwell on this topic because there's a lot in the market we got to get to today, but financial education to me is the key component in curing a lot of the ills that we have in society. And I just simply believe that income equality and all the civil strife that we have against one another, a lot of it is on the foundations of income inequality, which the backbone of income inequality is education.
Mhm.
You can talk about all the other policies, right or wrong. You can talk about all the government policies. You can talk about all the corporate policies. You can talk about all the central bank policies. But the number one difference between people that have and people that seek to have is the quality of their financial education.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with all of those statements. And by the way, Frankie, I mean, you are definitely a technician first and foremost. So market conditions like this that are technically driven, they've got to be right up your wheelhouse. You got to like this back and forth on the intraday, waiting for something to happen, something to confirm. Like even today, you know, we were up at little intraday resistance around that 33.60 mark, and then we've been selling mostly through the cash open here today. Frank, what's your read on the charts right now?
Yeah, I mean, you like this as a technician, right? You know, it's behaving, and hopefully I don't get kicked off again. Now I don't trust my internet, and beyond that, you know, we've seen a lot of good movement this week, right? While we've been stuck in the range on the S&P, you know, we had a really good moves in the chemical stocks, in the industrial stocks, some of the healthcare stocks. So it's been a well-behaved week, at least from my perspective. More of this, although now we're getting into decision time, right? We can only stay in this range for so long. I would expect that, you know, one more week tops is about all the time that we have left in this range. I don't know the future, but that would be my expectation. So yeah, I mean, I like a technically well-behaved market, and I expected this battle. I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I kind of expected it to look kind of like gold, where it had the big pop and then the drop and then the battle. And so far, you know, I've appreciated the behavior.
Yeah, and it is a little tighter than those ranges on gold, and it's a little more
Absolutely.
volatile on its action, which is par for the course when you're talking about the market
Right.
versus gold, obviously. But you are developing that same degree of pattern. There's no doubt about that. You know, you look at the last week and a half of data, and you do have that tight range developing where it's becoming pretty easy, guys. If it breaks down to the downside, you got to get a little bearish, and if it breaks out to the upside, you got to get aggressive on the bullish side. The game plan is not a difficult one. It's just a matter of having the patience necessary to wait for that break one way or the other. And if it does break down, I think you got to be prepared to short. You know, maybe you don't short the S&P. Maybe you find your stocks that you're leaning towards that are already bearish, that are looking at breaking support. You know, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot in the scanner report meeting about those types of stocks in the market, and do our best job to comb through the entire market to find those potential bearish trades, because it is one of those moments in time that is important to restock the shelf a little bit with the bearish watch list. So in case the market does confirm, you're ready to take action on Monday or Tuesday with that very, very important futures market open on Sunday. That futures market open on Sunday is going to be, let's just put it like this. It's football day.
But it'll also be futures day.
It's futures day.
Yep.
Okay? It's football day on one screen. It's the futures on the other screen, right? That
So
type
true.
of day.
Does the U.S. Open get punted then? I mean,
U.S. Open will be done at that point. Hold on. See, Tim, you tried to get one over on me, but you failed yet again, because the U.S. Open has to play 2 hours in front of what they normally play, because in June they can start later because they got 2 more hours of sunlight, which means the U.S. Open has to start at 7 a.m. our time, which means I will be done watching the U.S. Open by the time the futures market opens. You're such a bad fan. You're such a bad fan.
Oh, we'll see. I mean, sometimes those golf tournaments that last long, we'll see. But anyway, it's going to be fascinating to watch. The
NFL is not a higher priority than the U.S. Open.
For me, it is. I think but that's because you're a bigger golf fan, obviously. I mean, but they're both going to be fun
I'm a
events.
better human being.
Oh, okay. All right. The risk is to the downside here, guys. I mean, Marky, I'm looking at this, and Matt, I got a quick question for you on the chart here.
Yeah.
Is that a confirmed lower pivot?
I wouldn't call it a confirmed. Oh, are you talking about this pivot here?
Right there. Yep.
Oh yeah, that was a confirmed lower pivot right here. It's been a confirmed lower pivot for like a week and a half now.
So that candle there, but
well,
so then this one is continuation of that pivot.
Okay. The reason that I've spent so much time on that 3420 by 3450 confirmation is because that's a confirmed pivot. And so because you have a shift in trend, you have to wait for the breakout. You can't be bottom feeding here, right? You can front run on a strong trend that has similar volatility. You can't front run on a shift in volatility and a shift in trend analysis. You got to be more patient than that. You got to wait for the proper setup. So would I call that a confirmed pivot? Yes, I would call that a confirmed pivot. The initial reaction that leads you to the conclusion of confirmed pivot is the initial hold right there at 3420. This candle 2 days ago, which is the one I think you're talking about, that confirms that as that resistance level. So yes, 3420 is not a confirmed resistance level, but I have been acting as that is a confirmed resistance level because I just felt with this shift in volatility to the downside, the deeper pullback, I just felt that was going to play a significant role. So yeah, 2 days ago, it finally confirmed what I've been saying for a week and a half, that you can't touch this market on the top side, outside of dipping your toe in and lowering position size while you do that until you see that breakout one way or the other. If the read was a little different, you could have been looking at this being, okay, we're buyers here on that confirmation of this retracement. No, I just felt that 1320, that getting under that 20-day moving average for the first time in 40 days was just so important to this marketplace. So yes, I was talking about it as it was significant before it was actually confirmed.
Yeah.
But yes, it was confirmed 2 days ago.
Yeah, I love it. I love the analysis there. Marky, on a day like this where there's pressure, you're pushing towards support, it's Friday, you're heading into a weekend, you now have 3 candles in a row that have been selling. How do you personally approach a day like this? Because I know you would love lower levels, the way that you trade, right? And invest, from a naked put perspective and an equity perspective. How are you approaching today?
Like I've been saying all week, I've been really, really, really light on what I've been doing, even looking at maybe rolling down and out on the potential break here on a couple of my positions. If you go to the daily chart, like we've been talking, about this pinch, about this consolidation range, and I hate, and I get very, very cautious on the daily chart when you have a potential support break with a lowering 9 EMA. It serves as, and if we could pull up that daily chart real quick, it serves as this potential slap down potential. You notice, it came up to that 9 EMA and struggled with it all week. And then you have a situation where short-term moving averages where the 9 or the 20 start to descend and have that downward slope. You get in a breakdown situation with no support. I mean, and Matt's talked about it, I've talked about it, we've talked about it all week. There's nothing underneath the S&P 500 for a stretch. And so a breakdown here, always of concern when you potentially break support, but the lack of anything underneath has had me very, very cautious all week. Haven't done a lot with existing positions. Most of those are naked puts at lower levels, let that theta break off. But like when you have a potential break with a pocket of clear air with short-term descending moving averages, this isn't a pretty chart for bulls. It's not a pretty situation. The support battle that is occurring as we speak right now is really, really critical. Hopefully, the second thing that could be very helpful going into next week is the Monday effect, right? Like Mondays are bullish no matter what happens. It's a tough environment though right now, and it's one of caution, and it's one of what is your plan if support breaks? What is your plan with existing positions? Having that plan in place, I think, is critical.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think Fridays are a day for planning, watch list development. I know, Frank, you do your scanning. We hold our meetings on Friday for a reason, so that we can build our watch list over the weekend, get ready for the next week, and have a plan in place in case markets do break down. Frank, you've done your scanning already, I believe, probably.
Yes, sir.
Are you seeing more bearish opportunities develop across the market?
Yeah, and definitely more weakness. And we were talking about it, see if I can say that, talking about it in the chat. So much of it is in tech. The big name techs leading the way, the Apple, the Microsoft, the Amazon, the Facebook. So much of the weakness is over there. If you go look at materials, industrials, it's a much different story. Right. It's it's a much different story. So it's kind of an interesting situation where I actually see some pretty good buys in some of the Dow Jonesy type of areas,
The industrial plays.
and I want nothing to do with the tech plays. I not right now. That's we're already seeing the NASDAQ sticking its nose below that support level, so it's leading the charge. That's worrisome. At least short term in my mind. So yeah, it's opening up the door for more bearish setups than we've maybe seen. Not so much last couple of weeks, but most of the recovery phase, there are definitely more. But even if it's not bearish, it's definitely not bullish. And so it is a little bit of a red flag.
Well, the NASDAQ specifically talking about that weakness, Frankie, and that's a great point there because, whereas the S&P is really, really fighting for that 3,300 level today, the NASDAQ is blasting through support today at 11,000. So, it's, if you do confirm on the downside in the NASDAQ, I agree. Tech plays are kind of a stay away right now.
Yeah,
and we've been talking about that clear air. The clear air and the room to the next support is even more enormous in tech because of how pronounced the run up was the entire stretch post COVID.
Right.
So I mean, it's just a massive moving average pocket. It is a massive distance to horizontal support levels that you can really trust. It's a careful time right now for bulls.
It's going to be interesting having the conversations on rankings in the marketplace this week, with kind of the market, separating itself a little bit in later stage of the week, with basic materials and, energy and industrial doing fairly decent this week. Value has certainly outperformed the growth areas of the market this week. And if the NASDAQ does confirm on the downside, and there's not a lot of pretty charts in those tech plays right now. There's just
no, not at all.
There's not a chart in the tech space. It's like, oh, that is a clean buy right now. Everything's like, oh, it's kind of skittish right now. So
yeah, it's an interesting.
Go ahead, Frankie.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. If you look at the heat map for the S&P 500 on a weekly basis, it really shines through. I don't know if you have that up, and we can all do that on our own, but it really does shine through where the weakness is in this market right now.
Yeah. I mean, Amazon down 5% for the week, Facebook down 5% for the week, Apple, Microsoft shedding a little bit, but the strength in those industrial areas, Frank, like you're talking about, those are bright green. Yeah.
Somebody paint me a picture on when to buy Amazon right now.
No, it's ugly. I mean, from a daily chart perspective, I don't see anything there that would be a short-term map to buying it. Google same way.
Same thing with Google, Facebook,
Apple breaking the 50-day moving average, that 110, very important support level. You got nothing for another 8% down to $100 on Apple. Microsoft breaking support. The semiconductor stocks, SOX index kind of holding up that 50-day moving average. So, maybe semiconductors you might want to look at a little bit right now, but you got the Oracle news hanging over you.
Yeah.
So it's just a space that's not very clean in any capacity, and it's a space you probably want to stay away from.
Speaking of the Oracle news, one of the ongoing storylines around the broad markets has been the U.S.-China relationship, Matt, and stuff that's happening there. There's an upcoming deadline, I believe, on the 20th, Matt. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's an upcoming deadline on the 20th, but there's some interesting things going on today with that, Tim. And so Trump basically gave a deadline of September 20th. It was originally, everybody thought September 15th because that's what he said, but I think he misspoke at the time. Then it was one of those situations where Trump misspoke on a date, which we all do. I mean, there's a lot of information going around in everybody's head. And then everybody just assumed that when the Commerce Department was actually saying, no. Treasury Secretary was like, no. September 20th is the deadline. So they do have a deadline coming up tight on September 20th. And as of right now, it does not look like the Commerce Department or President Trump is going to approve the deal underneath the current parameters of the deal. And, every day that happens, we get a little bit more information on this potential deal or what is, what are the hiccups in getting a deal completed between Oracle, Walmart, and ByteDance? Well, basically, the parameters of the deal right now are ByteDance plans to do a global TikTok IPO. Now, that's very important because a global TikTok IPO is still Chinese owned through ByteDance. And so they're not giving up or relinquishing any of their voting or any of their ownership. What they're doing is they're going to do a global TikTok IPO listed in U.S. exchanges. Of the ownership, ByteDance will still maintain a majority of the ownership of the IPO. When it goes to IPO, Walmart and Oracle will both own a minority stake, with Oracle owning the most of that minority stake. And so the concern is obviously who still has the majority of the ownership, and that is ByteDance under the deal. And if you've listened to anything Trump has said on this, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like it for national security concerns. And so as of right now, they did give a November 12th deadline to come to some terms of an agreement that would basically satisfy the president from a national security concerning perspective. If anybody knows what Trump is going to do here, please help me understand, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And it seems like the talk right now is that if this deal doesn't get done this weekend, even though they have a November 12th deadline, that they might just scuttle the deal. So I agree with Trump in the sense that if the national security is the of the platform, the ownership is the concern, how can you support a deal where ByteDance still owns majority of the stake?
Mm-hmm.
That to me, I think Trump is looking at this from an optics perspective.
Mm-hmm.
How can I sign off on the deal when it's a national security concern and I made this an election issue, and yet ByteDance still owns a majority of the shares? It doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to sign off on that type of deal. Now, they gave the deadline post-election, which was interesting just from a timing perspective. But I don't know. I don't know how Trump can come back and support a deal that's still ByteDance owned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Marky, what's your read on this situation? Obviously, it's developing. I even heard, I don't know if Trump misspoke on this one, Matt, but he did even have one line where he said that Microsoft was still in the conversation. I haven't heard anything from that, and they even reached out to Microsoft for comment, but there was nothing there.
And maybe Microsoft is in the conversation. I don't think Trump misspoke there. He's probably just throwing Microsoft's name out there just to make sure ByteDance is clear. He means business here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he misspoke on that, but Microsoft hasn't confirmed it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, correct.
I don't know, Tim. I don't know. It's going to be a fascinating thing to see this get done or not.
Mm-hmm. Marky, what's your read on the U.S.-China stuff going on here? Because obviously the Oracle deal is where the headlines are. It's an ongoing saga. We're waiting to see how this will play itself out. There's concerns around Tencent as well. I guess some national security stuff came up with them as well. And WeChat. Marky, what's your read on the U.S.-China?
No, I mean, I think all this China stuff, I mean, as far as broad market implication, obviously has individual company implications, right? But as far as broad market implications, this stuff is just a top layer of a much brewing deeper problem with China. This week, we had a record number of large arms sales to Taiwan. Normally, I mean, we've sold arms to Taiwan for.
It was billions, Mark.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but normally how the U.S. approaches this is a little bit here, and then some time passes, and a little bit here.
Yeah.
And that has basically been the protocol. And naturally, China doesn't like it, but it's spaced out over time. And this week it was just a dump. Here is a ton. Here's 7 major defense systems. There is real problems brewing with China. So there's 99 problems with China, and TikTok's one, but it's only one. So I mean, that's a big powder keg that will be very, very interesting. Should Trump win the election?
Well,
I think it's very, very interesting. I think it's underreported, because all of the headlines that you see from the neophyte financial media, revolve around, well, if Biden wins, they might raise corporate taxes. That's true, right? Like there might be, or the rollback of the tax cuts, and that's true. And that has individual company. You never hear what about the market risk if Trump wins with China, because China has played nice for months and months and months now. If Trump wins, do they say we're going to deal with this for 4 more years? I don't know, right? But there's a chance that they say
not
no,
only
we got
4 more years, Mark. I mean, what happens 4 years after that? I mean,
I mean, is this our new permanent, and are they just going to roll over? I don't believe so personally, and so I think if Trump wins, it could get very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the last thing I'll say on the Oracle deal is I hope this is just me talking my own personal opinion here, but I want Trump to stand strong on China, and I want him to stand strong on these national security concerns. There was a lot of nonsense in those trade talks over the last few years. There's a lot of just absolute, just unmitigated nonsense coming out of the Trump administration, coming out of the Chinese as well. And that's what happens when you go through trade wars. But to me, one of the bigger concerns for me personally in all of those talks was how the U.S. was going to protect U.S. consumer data and how the U.S. was going to protect, corporate intellectual property data. And I agree with Trump on his concern with ByteDance still. If national, and nobody knows this, guys, because we're not in those, NSA meetings and CIA meetings, and we don't read the intel briefings that the president
Sure.
gets.
Yeah.
But to me, if the national security concern is the legit area of concern, and what they're seeing is, China acting in some type of bad behavior, I want them to stand strong on this. I don't understand how, and I get Oracle and Walmart are scrambling right now, and financial media is scrambling right now, trying to understand what's going on. But I don't want Trump to cave on national security concerns against a foreign power. I don't want, if the concern is national security, that concern cannot be solved and cannot be answered with ByteDance owning a majority of the stake.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mhm.
Walmart and Oracle up the ante and ByteDance is willing to sell more of the shares, whereas Oracle and Walmart have a majority of the ownership, even with ByteDance as a minority, I could understand that, and I think the president would understand that. But with ByteDance still owning a majority of the shares, how does that eliminate the national security concerns if those are the concerns which are truly holding up this deal?
Well, is that kind of why they wanted to price the IPO potentially here in the U.S. in the next year? Maybe they're trying.
Oh no, that is appeasing
Right.
the U.S. That is China saying, listen, we will put an IPO on U.S. exchanges following U.S. GAAP earnings and accounting principles, and that's ByteDance, and that's China saying, hey, listen, we're willing to play ball right now, guys. That's what that is. But still, again, if the concern is national security, as long as the Chinese company owns majority of the stake, I don't know how you eliminate the national security concerns.
Yeah, and it'll be an ongoing.
And they can call it the trusted technology partner all they want. I don't care what you call it. It doesn't change the fact that a Chinese company would own a majority of the concern of the company. That is concerning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get resolution just because there's this deadline here in 2 days. By the way, we'll see how it happens. It's going to be interesting to watch.
No, I don't think the deadline's the 2 days. They're just going to put. They're going to stop. They're going to ban TikTok and WeChat. Is what they're going to do
on downloads. Is that
so?
right?
Oh no, they're doing it on the 20th. They're going to ban TikTok and WeChat. That's why this weekend is so important in the negotiations. So the November 12th deadline is like, okay, that's fine. That's a deadline. Everybody's working on that as this weekend because the U.S. will ban TikTok from downloads, will ban WeChat from downloads as well. That's going to happen on the 20th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So everybody's working like we got to get a deal done to the pieces of the president by the end of this weekend.
Cody?
Also updates. So downloads, updates. So anyone that has the current TikTok app, if there were to be any type of upgrades made on, let's say, the Apple side, then they wouldn't be able to update the TikTok to actually follow along with it. So pushing to Matt's point is it would slowly start trickling out the amount of users in the US that could use the app to begin with by simply downloading any updates or downloads of it.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people in the US use WeChat, but a tremendous amount of Chinese expats use WeChat to communicate with people from home. And so
I was going to say, yeah,
there's a concern there.
A lot of grad students I was working with that were from China, that's the only way they communicate with
that's
their
why
family.
They communicate. Yeah, that's how they communicate. So there's obviously concern with that September 20th deadline. And once again, if a deal is going to be made, it's probably going to get made before the U.S. bans TikTok and WeChat. So I think the next 48 to 72 hours is important for this deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We'll take a look at that on Monday, see what happens with it. Obviously, over the weekend, markets aren't open, so it'll have an implication potentially on the Monday morning and whatnot. The other ongoing storylines that we've been tracking, obviously, have been around fiscal spending, stimulus, and so on and so forth. Matt, there was a couple of news items that came up with this. President Trump was talking about giving some money to farmers in the Midwest. I believe $13 billion as a part of the CARES Act and some of the money that he had. And there was a bipartisan spending bill that seems to be getting pushed through right now. to avert a government shutdown on October 1st. Other things around stimulus, Matt, what have you seen in the news around that 13 billion to farmers and the government, bill?
Listen, I know Republicans and Democrats hate each other, and I say that, tongue in cheek a little bit, from a political perspective. But nobody, and I mean not one politician, wants to be responsible for shutting down the government on October 1st in the middle of a pandemic during election season. Nobody wants that. And so what they're negotiating right now, the lawmakers in Congress are negotiating what is called a clean spending bill. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are not familiar with the debt ceiling, we achieve the debt ceiling all the time. It happens all the time. We've achieved the debt ceiling. I stopped counting, but since 1960, it's been like 115 times. We've hit the debt ceiling. We always surpass the debt ceiling. And how we do it is we pass short-term resolutions called spending bills. And so these bills, and typically speaking, when we shut down the government, it's due to Democrats or Republicans trying to insert some of their little pet projects in spending bills, and some of their pet projects would be controversial issues, like just whatever that controversial issue is at the time. And so a clean spending bill is a bill that is passed by our lawmakers that has no controversy in it, no negotiation in it. It's what we all agree that we need to spend to keep the government open. And so they're in the middle of negotiating a clean spending bill, which would extend the October 1st government shutdown deadline, because nobody wants to see that. Nobody in America, well, I'm sure there's some libertarians wouldn't mind it, but for the most part, nobody wants to see the government get shut down in the middle of a pandemic. So they will be getting that clean spending bill passed through that. And in the farm portion of that, farmers are getting an additional $13 billion in stimulus.
Yeah. And I didn't see any updates around the ongoing conversations around stimulus in the last 24 hours. Did any of you guys mark anything around the 1.5 to 2.2?
Let me say
there was a headline that broke in the last hour that, causation headlines, like the stock market likes causation headlines. And what I mean by causation headlines is this is the reason the market is up, or this is the reason the market is down, whether or not they're true or not. But there was a causation headline that broke in the last hour. The stocks dropped to session lows after Pelosi says she is sticking to her 2.2 trillion. She digging in on 2.2 trillion, just saying, nope, this is what it is. Take it or leave it. So
yeah. I don't necessarily believe that the market's been breaking.
But I love it. You have 100 million negative
and shocker, right?
You have 100 million negative stimulus negotiation headlines while the market's on the way is up. Never does Market Watch or the financial media talk about them now. But now they like causation headlines to try to explain technical actions. Going back to what we said at the start of the show, it's nothing to. It's the same, man. We've been in the same causation mess with stimulus for 5, 6, 7 weeks.
I think we all watched Matrix Revolutions this week because causation is the word of the week.
Oh, is Revolutions the second one?
That's the second one. I think it's the second one. It's the second one. But that's the one where the architect is introduced and he always uses the word causation. Or maybe it's Oracle. I can't remember it, but yeah, no, I don't have anything new on the stimulus deal other than what they were talking about yesterday. Yeah, just tit for tat here and there, but nothing major.
And not surprised that Nancy Pelosi is sticking to the 2.2 trillion.
She's not coming off the 2.2 trillion dollars. She's not.
It is what it is. The other area, Matt, I want to hit, and we're going to get to charts here in a minute with you, Frankie, and whatnot. And I believe, actually, just as a way of saying hello and good morning to Emily, Coach Emily, come on in here for a second. I saw your video there pop up. How you doing today, my friend?
I am wonderful. How are you gentlemen doing today?
And hello, I assume you are here to hang out, learn, and all of that kind of stuff. But also, you got Women in Trading webinar tonight. Is that right?
We do. We do have Women in Trading tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and we have a special guest joining us tonight, ladies. So Miss Dina Ritz, who has been quite popular this week because of her book and all her success in trading, will be joining us tonight. So
awesome.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool. 8:30 Eastern. You guys are going to have some fun. And Dina will be joining to talk about that. I won't show up live because I know it's a women only event, but I'm going to be watching the recording on this one, Emily. There's no question about that. I will take a peek at what this one, that's exciting. No doubt about it. System 32 Gaming is now being put in timeout. Very good there, Maddie. Let's keep working through, Matt. The other one I wanted you to talk about a little bit was the pound dollar cross pair. The Bank of England came out and talked about interest rate policy. You had mentioned that earlier. And Matt, the one thing that stood out to me, obviously, is they were hinting at potentially future negative rates for the first time in the 326-year history of the Bank of England. Matt, that's not a surprise to you, I believe. In fact, you said if you want to bet on something that's going to come in lower interest rates is going to be the one thing to do it. What was your read on that whole thing, Matt?
Par for the course.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, listen, the Bank of England, and the thing with the central banks, and everybody knows this now, but I mean, you got to, when they say things, and it's called Fed speak, but any central bank does it. When they say things like what they said today, that's the indication that they're putting into the market that, hey guys, I know we're just talking about it hypothetically right now, but what we're really doing is we're testing to see how all of you in the market are going to react to the news to see if it's something that would create panic or whatever it is. So they just kind of test out certain things. They test them out. They did it with you know, a negative interest rates before, not negative interest rates, but zero interest rate policy before we ever went to zero interest rate policy. We then went to zero interest rate policy. Europe did it with negative interest rates. The only one I can remember in recent history, i.e. the last decade, is the Bank of the Swiss National Bank. When on January 15th of 2015, the Swiss National Bank shockingly went to a negative interest rate without even hinting towards a negative interest rate. And that was a fascinating thing. I mean, when you're looking at the currency market, and on that date, I can't go back to the time frame to show the gap, but in that moment, in 5 minutes, the dollar depreciated 27% against the Swiss franc. The euro went down 35% against the Swiss franc, and we're talking in minutes, guys, like minutes. And so central banks never want to come out immediately without testing these philosophies to the market because of what transpired with the Swiss back in 15. And so the central banks around the world, they will signal what they're going to do or things they're testing at doing. So when they actually make these announcements and shift monetary policy, it doesn't shock the marketplace. And so when the Bank of England comes out today and says, hey, listen, we're going to maintain at 0.1% on our overnight rate, but we're also thinking about negative interest rates for the first time in our history based on these two factors, i.e. post-Brexit, difficulties from an economic perspective, as well as the pandemic. It's almost, you never want to say it's guaranteed because things change from an economic perspective. But to me, it's the Bank of England signaling to the marketplace, hey guys, negative interest rates are in the back here, right? And so even though they maintain 0.1% negative interest rates, I mean, and I expect the pound to come down a little bit here.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at that pattern,
I really like it from a charting perspective.
Yeah, I
it's
was
a
going to
pair of
say the
retracements.
chart looks nice.
Yeah, Frankie,
Looks
that's
really
that's
good.
actionable, right? Pivot points, lower pivot low, and now you're developing that new pivot potentially. If you get confirmation, that's tradable. If you get confirmation to the downside,
Yeah, I think some people would say it's confirmed today. And so, yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't look like a buy signal to me.
No, and when there is no reason to buy, you got to look at it from a sell side. And when you're looking at this downward movement in price here, you're looking at a couple key areas of support, one at 129.50, one right at 29.42. And now you're breaking down out of those. You really don't have a lot till you get down to about 129. You break 129, ultimate confirmation at 128.65. And then you break down that, you're talking down next to, the 127.5, which you might think, oh, well, a stock trade, that we're talking pennies here. On a currency trade, that's a home run.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was going to say,
Real,
that's a really good chart. I think the risk to reward on that chart right there is a nice, easy, quick setup.
And with trading, you got to throw the disclaimer, anything can happen, right? Especially,
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
know
always.
this,
And I mean, even in the Forex
especially
market,
with currency,
especially with currency.
especially with currency.
you know,
I mean,
So like you go into that being like, man, it is a 50-50 crapshoot in currency on swing trading perspective, but I have a pretty substantial return versus the risk. I'm going to take a 50-50 shot here.
exactly.
That's how you treat swing trading in currency. You go for the home run, you take cheap risk, and you try to hit the home run
Trade
on a
small,
swing
trade
trade.
smart.
On a day trade, that's different in the currency, but on a swing trade, you try to hit the home run, take cheap risk.
mhm. Real quick one here from Matt, a little diversion if we can for just 1 or 2 minutes. Apron or ACB if you can. Dante in the chat here, I think a newer member of our community and whatnot has a question saying, hey,
ACB,
I
that's
bought a, yeah, Aurora
that's
Cannabis.
yeah, that's Aurora.
Mhm. He says, I bought ACB back in July and now it's less than half of what I paid. What is your advice? Stay long or cut the short and take a loss and get out? I appreciate your input. There's a couple things here.
Oh,
I
these
would
are
talk.
never easy to hear, Dante.
Yeah,
These are
several
never easy.
things. The answer to this one, whatever you do with this particular investment or trade, is less important than the learning lesson that you can develop from what you've done here. Obviously, you picked a stock; it's gone down. You're losing money. There's a thing we call the sunk cost fallacy, Matt, which is a part of prospect theory and all the mindset around losing money on a position. When traders are sitting there watching losses, they end up getting attached to them more and more and more and more. Dante, I don't know exactly how much time you've spent on financial education, building trading plans and whatnot, but I'm glad that you're here to try to learn and better understand what's going on. Here's the bottom line. It's an ugly chart. If you've got a long-term investment on it, like you wanted a multi-year hold or something, that would be a slightly different conversation, but people got to learn how to get out of bad trades. We end up holding on to losers longer than we should, Marky. And that's just a stock in a downtrend. Mark, how would you answer this question? Because
Also, I mean, that's also a classic example of descending short-term moving averages. We highlight just the last couple months,
Yeah.
like those short-term moving averages. Every time it rallies, they get slapped down. It's when you get trapped below short-term moving averages, these sustained longer downtrends can happen. Listen, when you have a long-term investment, like trades are trades, like we need to get out on support breaks of trades. We need to have signals to get out trades. But in our head, if it's an investment, and I don't, for me, it doesn't apply to this. I don't think the marijuana companies are anything more than spec plays. There's nothing wrong with the spec play, right? But so it's not something I have fundamental conviction in. But that's what it always comes down to. For that 5, 10, 15-year horizon. If you think the market's dead wrong on a company, which sometimes I do, sometimes I'm right in my scoffing in the market, sometimes I'm wrong, but my fundamental conviction of that will have me oftentimes adding more. Now, that's not what I would advise in Aurora Cannabis, because I think the spec plays are extremely dangerous. And it's like luck and coffee, right? It's like a lot of these spec plays, like Hertz, Genius Brands, there's so many of these spec plays out there. And there's nothing wrong with a spec play every once in a while, right? But learning to cut your losses on a spec play in particular, and learning to read the charts early when these downtrends and support breaks start to happen, really can save you a lot of pain. Cost average down strategies on spec plays are not advised. This isn't a nice dividend company that you have 40 years of history, right? This is an Apple computer. I have a put sold at Apple computer at 77.50. If it goes to 50, I'm not selling my Apple shares. I'm going to buy more, but that's Apple, right? I know what Apple is, and I know what Apple is from a long-term investing perspective. Spec plays, I think we need to learn to cut our losses really, really early, and not compound situations that get worse, to make them worse.
Yeah, Matty, anything to add to that?
I'm going to be very, very clear here. And I loved you guys went in teaching mode there, because I think it's important. Dante, the last remaining analysis you have is hope. You started with hope, and that's all you have today is hope. And that is not a wise investment thesis, is when you start something with hope. And so if it was a trade, there was no trade to be made there. You should be stopped out a long time ago. If it is an investment, I would have to understand your investment thesis. But as of right now, the only thing I see on this chart and the only thing I see in Aurora Cannabis is you hope they have a good earnings next week. And that to me is just not, you never know. And your mind plays tricks on you because, yeah, but like I can recover all of this next week with, a positive earnings response. You're right. You can. You can trade, you can make all of it back with a positive earnings response next week. But what's the probability of that? The probability of that is not 50-50. The probability of that is very, very, very low. And so, yes, there was a moment in time where the cannabis movement, the marijuana movement was the only thing the market talked about. But can you point to me anybody in the market that's been talking about the marijuana play in the last like 2.5 years?
No, it lost its little,
Okay.
luster there for sure.
So again, it's really hard to answer these questions because we don't know exactly what your investment thesis is. Like if Cody calls me up and Cody says, hey, Matt, I'm thinking about doing this and this and this, I can answer that question in a fraction of a second, given the fact that I was Cody's mentor and I know his portfolio design and I know his trading personality and I know his short-term, long-term goals. I know those things, so I can answer that more appropriately. But Dante, realize one thing. I promise you, every single person in tackle trading and every single coach in tackle trading has been through that too. Every single person has. Every single person has. And I'll just remind you, Dante, what I was told by my mentor many, many, many years ago when I was stuck in a trade similar to this. I was stuck in a trade and I had lost half of the trade. And I kept saying things like, oh, it's got to go back up. It's got to go back up. And he just said to me, and I'll leave the choice language aside for now, but he just said to me, Matt, it doesn't matter what you think. You have to make decisions at the time. And would you make the same decision today that you made 2.5 months ago or 2 weeks ago? Would you make that same decision, or can you go put that money working in something else? Because Dante, here's the thing as a trader. Yeah, it sucks for Aurora Cannabis. It sucks for this specific trade. It's terrible. It feels like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get this. But you are, because Dante, trading takes time and you're going to have some losses along the way. But you should never, ever, ever position size and trade to either make or break yourself in one single time frame. You got to think about where you're at a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now, because if you make mistakes and you compound those mistakes today, you're not going to be trading in a year from now. You're not going to be trading 10 years from now. And that's what you have to have. You have to have the perspective of long term, even if you act in the short term. So Dante, even though we're never going to tell you what to do, because that's not who we are. We are educators. We believe in education. We believe in teaching people so that they can make these decisions for themselves long term. But if I were you, I would simply go through the analysis of, would I make the exact same decision today that I made 2.5 months ago? And if you would not make that same decision today, then you need to get out of the trade and look to put your money in something that's going to work to actually make it back. This world of trading, we get so emotionally invested in it. We get so emotionally invested in it that it's like putting the beer goggles on to a certain extent. When you look at this more like a market assassin and you remove this name at the top of the left, you remove that symbol from it and you remove the P&L column at it and you say, okay, what is the analysis today? The analysis today is very simple. You have a bearish downtrend with a low base and you are today breaking that low base. Where does the probability, when you have a bearish downtrend, I'm going to ask Tackle Trading this, team, when you have a bearish downtrend and you have a low base and you break that low base, what is the most likely next movement? And the most likely next movement, guys, has to be a projection to downward movement in price.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
It has to be.
Continuation trend. Yep.
It has to be. And the only thing that can stop that is a positive response to earnings. And can it happen? Absolutely it can happen. Look what happened on this earnings here. Bearish downtrend, breaking support. Earnings came out 3 days later, you have massive price appreciation. It can absolutely happen. But do you really want to justify your trading career based on hypothetical scenarios that may or may not exist on earnings?
And the second part of his
Market,
question was,
the market's threatening to break down right now.
it already broke down. We're
It
going
already
to go
broke
back to the
down.
market for a second here. It did just break below that 3,300 price down to 3,280 there for about just one tick. But now, Matt, we are seeing some pressure here intraday. Love the answers, by the way, there. And
For
and
sure.
really what it comes down to is financial education around your trading plans. Dante, if you're not yet a pro member, there's a trial link below. I would highly recommend go and start with courses and joining, those mastermind groups in the traders lounges and get to know how to do this correctly for sure. Let's talk about this market breakdown here. Maddie,
But I'll tell you right now, just because I think it's important for Dante. And Dante, you're with the right team. You are. We care
Sure.
about you. We're going to help you along the way. But Dante, just realize you are not alone there. We have all done that.
Yeah.
And Dante, you probably are so new to us, you don't know the GoPro story. But I promise you, our team at Tackle Trading knows the GoPro story. And that exact same thing happened to me with GoPro, where I bought at 29, and in the short term, meaning like a month or 2 months later, it was $12. And I was riding call option after call option after call option, trying to catch up to the loss. And it got to the point where it's like literally 10 months later, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like this started off with a challenge, and now it's like a major thing for me. What am I doing? This isn't who I am. And that was 10 years after I started trading. And so I finally just said enough is enough, and I'm getting out of it. And you know what, Dante, something happened when I got out of it. I stopped thinking about it. I stopped caring about it. I
Your
stopped
mental state gets better.
I stopped being emotional about it. And you know what I did? I just went back to analyzing the market and looking at breakouts.
mm-hmm. Yeah, find another trade.
Yeah.
You're going to take hundreds and thousands of trades in your trading career. You don't have to have this emotion around one position. You shouldn't. And I know how it is. We've all been there. We've all done that. No question about it. And I do love these kind of conversations, Frankie. This market breakdown, though, I do want to talk about. It's happening.
Listen, I will tell you right now, Tackle Trading will always answer those types of questions, because we know what people go through when you're sitting in front of your computer by yourself and all you have is your words and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The amount of peace you'll find after closing it too, I promise you will be better than the fear of losing.
Well, and you get those funds that you can put to work, like Matt said, trying moving out of GoPro into breakouts. You can put them into work,
be better.
into things you want. Yeah.
Your trading will improve just your mental state changes.
And I can't remember the breakout trade I took, Frank, but the first breakout trade I took, I was like, that just feels good.
That just feels nice. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Maddie, what is this significant to you that the market's breaking down intraday, or are you going to be waiting on the close?
Yeah, it's significant.
Significant. I'm implementing.
I just
like
wanted to move
10 minutes.
into the
Dude,
conversation.
I'm implementing Alpha 4-7, roll down and out plan that I've had in place all week, right? I mean, this is what we've been talking about.
Have you been watching sci-fi?
No, I'm just a nerd. Like I don't, I'm just a nerd. So
I started a show called Dark Matter, Mark. I can't determine if I want to give it another shot.
I would recommend it. It gets better and then it gets worse. I've watched it.
It seems like my good of terrible show.
You'll enjoy it. Yes, I know you. You'll enjoy it.
Okay, but yeah, Tim, it is significant. I mean, look at the volatility shift as you started coming into that. You tried to find support here. You violated it pretty good. I don't feel like it's going to spin out of control, but it certainly could. You got to update your projections. This break of support could get nasty. Now to go to the close though, nothing happens until the close.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. I think the close is what's important to me.
Yeah, I agree with all that as well. I mean, obviously on a Friday, getting the close of the week, but here we are. We're under support, guys, and we're seeing it speed up. The volume's picking up. Something we're going to keep an eye on as we go through the show here. Obviously, outside of broad market on the equity and news and whatnot, I do want to talk crude oil and some of the commodities real quick if we can. Very interesting statement, Mark. Is there anything more terrifying to you than the idea of being threatened by a Saudi prince?
Dude, Saudi prince has my back. Like,
he has your back. Yeah, he must have heard what I said on the halftime report the last 2 days. If we get a
listen, listen, it's fascinating. Dive in, like, whatever glib comment I can come up with here. I mean, I can't beat the color, comment of that. Read the quote.
I might have like a target on my back right now. Are you kidding me?
I'm going to try to say the name right. Abdulaziz bin Salman, I believe he's a Saudi prince. He said basically, Matt, and quote, do not test the resolve of Saudi Arabia.
Still funny. Oh my God. Do not test the resolve of the block.
And he was directly talking to speculators who were
like,
betting on the downside
all
of
I'm
oil.
hearing is like Senator Palpatine in front, like, don't test the resolve of the empire. Oh goodness. Oh,
can you remain? Go ahead.
I'm fascinated because, like, literally I was reading that article today, Tim, and I'm like, man, I was preparing to short under 40 with confirmation. And like, I felt like he was talking to, like, don't test the resolve of the empire against us. We will come against you. And and I don't want to make a political statement here, but I was like, oh man, they do have some history of killing people.
Yeah, it's not exactly a country you want to mess with. Frankie, in the face of, kind of rhetoric around like a Saudi prince coming out and talking it, could you still just be a pure technician and short this if you got confirmation?
I couldn't. No. No. Listen, why mess with it?
You all are a bunch of wusses.
I feel challenged. I like Emily. I feel challenged. I'm doing it. I'm going to front run this.
See, I feel the other way. I'm thinking, let's see who will take that stand. Let's see how that plays out for him, and then if we put in a higher low and then see some upward movement, let's maybe speculate that way. I wouldn't dare. I don't. I'm a well-known wimp. Right.
I kind of feel like the Saudi prince said, how big of a boy are you? And I'm going to show him how big of a boy I can get.
And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go hide in the corner. I haven't touched crude for a long time, so this gives me more reason to not touch it for a longer time.
Oh, I got it chest puffed out. I'm ready to rock.
Not me.
Yeah, you don't tell Matt what to do.
Oh, are you kidding me? Tell me to jump off a cliff. Watch this. Hold my beer, Frankie.
Matt, you go first, and I'll be behind you. But if anything happens, I'm out.
No.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm going to walk out my door. I'm just saying in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm a big boy. How big of a boy are you? I'm a big boy.
Pull that audio, please. Can you cut and isolate that? I want that to be my ringtone. Just Matt over and over. I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy.
Big boy.
Hold me back. Hold me back. You're trying to fight, but you're like, hold me back.
Matt, it is a developing bearish retracement, though. I mean, would you, in all seriousness on the chart here, would you short it if it went below 40? Is there an opportunity there?
Yeah, I'm still looking at the 40 short.
Yeah, I think it's still in play there. Obviously,
if we continue to see price appreciation, no. But I still see the overall trend as slowing momentum here. Mm-hmm. And so when you have your big candle, bigger candle, slightly smaller candle, you still have it rotating. Mm-hmm. And until the momentum pushes back up, I still think the short under 40 is doable here. So as long as the trends or the pattern still sees the slowing momentum, remember when Marty's hitting his head on resistance, he doesn't just hit his head and come right back down. As gravity goes up, Marty slows down. And so as long as it's still slowing down, I think you can still look at the potential short under 40.
Yeah, I think it's in play as well. Moving on through metals, if we can here, gold just kind of hanging out, silver doing the same thing. Marky, I'm sure you saw it, but copper is breaking out here today as well. And Mr. Dev, we do like to party, especially on Friday Fun Day. There's no doubt about that. Anything you guys are seeing in the metals market grabbing your attention? I'm not seeing anything outside that copper breakout, which I do like. You got to like that copper breakout. Marky, what about you? What are you seeing in metals?
Dude, a lot of the same. I've liked copper for a good month now. I've been on record for saying I think it has a run up to 3.3. Been saying that on the halftime report for 3 weeks now. So I think, copper runs to 3.3. I think the conditions are good for copper to run to 3.3. And then I think it hits its head and it stalls for a while. So trading instruments related to copper, I'm definitely hold. I own shares of FCX and judging it, and so, yeah, Copper
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, that's
Like, you know, and
pretty.
it's one of the, I mean, it's one of the few markets with a reasonable sustained uptrend, right? You know, and every time it's pulled back and it fought that breakout, the last breakout level it had. I mean, it's just really good for copper. So FCX continues to do well. I like it for another, what is that, 6-7% price appreciation from here, maybe
Mhm.
8%.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the copper space as well. And obviously that breakout on the raw commodity, it gives you the opportunity to play some of those companies that actually have copper exposure. I don't see anything in gold and silver that needs updated, nor the dollar map. You can flash through those charts if you like to. Bitcoin still hesitating at that 11K mark. Pretty much from a broad market analysis, that's what I've got. I want to talk individual companies. Anybody got anything else on the broad market before we move into individual stocks? Let's do it.
No, I like the copper breakout. I'm with Mark. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the copper
pretty.
breakout.
Yep. Some company news I did want to get to. Walmart first, Matt, if you can bring this one up. They announced that they are going to raise the minimum wage to $15 for their associates, 18 to 21 for starting for their team members. We saw this with Amazon earlier in the year. We're seeing this with more and more companies. Going to cost the company about $1 billion to do this, but they are raising the wages for their workers here at Walmart. Do you guys have any interest in this stock? I mean, it blasted out when it was obviously in that TikTok news. Maddie, it's now kind of back here. I'm not really personally interested in Walmart, but I don't play Walmart. Anybody got any interest in this company here on this pullback? That's it.
Moderate,
Not
but
until the
it's,
Oracle news.
yeah, want to get that behind us to see where
And
it,
not with the market pulling back, right?
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
so
Yep.
I mean, Walmart's a great company, right? Going to be around for a while. They're, I think, bright future, great history, great past, but you know, market's breaking down. I'm not interested in jack and squat really right now. So
Yeah, the perma bulls kind of has to be patient here.
I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, and I am a perma bull, and
Yeah.
you just patient. Like, listen, it's been a great stretch, right? I'm giving it back a little bit today. I just closed I think I just closed some positions at a loss for the first time in 6 months where I didn't roll down, where I just said, nope, this is my part of my plan. Too much exposure. Just going to buy back those at a loss. Listen, the breakdown is a serious thing. A breakdown is a serious thing, and reducing your exposure and saving capital for better trading times, which will be here, right? This isn't the end of days. I don't think anyone thinks this is the end. It's just a nasty technical condition. Wait to deploy that capital, protect it, have a plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when markets are breaking down, it's going to be hard to get interested in adding deep pullbacks on some of these companies for sure. I'm with you guys 100%.
Dude, and it sucks
Yeah.
losing money every day. I just like, you know, blah, you know, this sucks. But this is a big, long game in trading, investing, right? There are great stretches where you feel like a king. In times where you don't feel so royal, it's best to just, you know, do what you can to protect your capital, save it to deploy it a different day. That doesn't mean sell everything, right? It's just making sure you don't have too much exposure, making sure that it's just not this stressful situation. There's nothing wrong with your account being red a day. It's just, does it cause you stress? Is it something that going into the weekend, being in down on Friday, is going to impact your life? I call it the sleep test. If you go to bed and are worried about your positions, you have too much exposure. You just do. If you don't care, even on a down day, and you can sleep like a baby, then you're kind of in that mama bear spot. Which of the bears had the just right? Was it baby bear bed just right?
Yeah, maybe bear
I
is
always
just
forget.
right.
Yeah, the baby bear spot where everything's just right.
Goldilocks, right? Yeah.
Goldilocks, yes.
All right, Goldilocks. I like it. Next one I want to talk about here, Home Depot and Lowe's here, Matt, both got a downgrade out of that space. Then we'll get into the Tesla news. I saw the question in the chat as well. Quick one on Home Depot and Lowe's, though. Oppenheimer downgraded both of them on the same day, basically saying we're not factoring in the risk of less spending from consumers based on the COVID shutdown through the fall. And we did see that out of them here today. Matty, you got the gold chart up, something there you want to talk about?
Mr. Dev's asking for timeout. We got a question. I think I can't remember who asked the question, but question on confirmation on gold just in case. So I know you wanted to, there's not happened, so I understand why you wanted to quickly go through it. I still got confirmation because it's widely known in tackle I don't like triangle breaks. So I still got confirmation ultimately above 2000, and the confirmation in general above the continuation above 2020. So nothing changes for me in the analysis on gold until above 2000 and true confirmation above that 2020 level, which would eliminate that potential trigger there. But I really like the 2000. It's a significant whole number. I think you can be confident. On the longer term perspective, you're already confident enough. You got the evidence that support is held enough to be confident there. But from a triggering impact to get into the momentum, I do see that above 2000 on gold. One quick question on Tesla. Do you guys have any interest in Tesla in front of Battery Day?
I don't hate the idea, right? Because I mean, a known event, like we've known about Battery Day for weeks. I mean, for those that were Tesla for probably months and months, right? But I, first about battery. And when I first saw Battery Day, I was like, that is such a run-up event. That is such a run-up event to Battery Day. It's just one of those, cult type company, big event, everybody goes wild. So yeah, I think it's a great run-up type event, kind of like the run-ups we've seen into earnings on a lot of these faddish type companies. So
Are they going to hit it with a sledgehammer this time? I mean, the last time they had some big event day where they talked about unveiling a new product. I don't have any interest.
The
No.
cult members don't care if the car breaks down on stage and explodes. They'll be like, "That's a great fireworks show."
I believe Tesla went up the day after that, but I'd have to check.
Exactly. They don't care.
They went down the one day, they went right back up the next day, I think is what happened. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have interest in
These are happening. Well, no, I'm typically not interested in front of news events. I'm typically interested after the confirmation of how the market responds to those news events. But these things are happening more frequently amongst the major brands where they have these special conferences where they unveil new products. We've seen it with Apple for years with, every litany of product they have, from watches to iPads to phones to you name it. We see it out of other companies as well. I would have to go back, and because this is still fairly new with companies doing all of this. So I'd have to go back and do some research about how companies perform in front of these days.
Yeah.
It's certainly something that should be, on your radar because it's Tesla and it's a major news around Tesla, and anything to do with batteries, typically Tesla goes up because they always project their batteries going to improve over time, which they have. So, it's certainly on the radar, but I typically just like to see how Wall Street really responds to what actually transpires with the news. Because those things can start trends.
Sure.
Is what they do. Yeah. And so, yeah, you can front run something and get in at a better price. But like I've said many times, if the retracements or if this, sets in, you can give up a few days, because if it starts a trend, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it is Tuesday. So even if you wanted to kind of map something out, you could do some research over the weekend, think through it, and build a plan on Monday if there was some kind of volatility type trade. I'm with you, Matt. I would wait for the market response, treat it kind of like an earnings report almost in that regard. Wait for the market response, then see what kind of patterns develop, outside of that. So yeah, Tuesday, September 22nd is Battery Day on Tesla. By the way, Tesla got a price upgrade today again, Frankie, I believe out of one of the firms, but that stock just look at the impressive rally off of that 50-day test.
It's been nice. Yeah, if we consolidate going into the event and then break out, maybe there's something there. But I'm with Matt. Let's see the event. Let's see the price action. See if we can apply our technical analysis to that. Is how I would want to approach it.
Yep. A couple other companies, Matt, in the news here. And then I do want to get to Frankie's charts. Home Depot and Lowe's received a downgrade here. Give me one or either one of those. Marky, do you have any interest in the Home Depot type Lowe's space? They had been some pretty strong performers at different points during this run. They're now kind of hesitating up here on the high. What's your read on those two companies, Mark?
I mean, they're both great companies, right? As far as retail
companies
go.
Home Depot or
the downgrades on Home Depot and Lowe's.
I mean, yeah, they're both great companies, but they're in. I mean, they're from an investing point of view. Obviously, from a trading point of view, you're looking at a nasty chart, so that's a no-go. But from an investing point of view, I mean, everything's pricey. It's really pricey. And so it's like, oh my gosh, let me run out and get Home Depot because it's down 8%. I mean, that's not really a bargain. I mean, great company, right? But it doesn't represent this really, really deep discount. So great companies, just a little pricey right now but that it could be applied to almost everything in this market right now, which is probably why, like a lot of people are hitting the sell button.
Well, a
right
lot
now.
of stocks are down here today. So obviously the downgrade is not going to help these two stocks. But even more concerning potentially, Matt, is the reversal in some of the momentum up here. You don't have a reversal in trend yet, but you got established resistance on lows, established support. I think even Home Depot looks a little bit weaker than Lowe's, by the way. What's your read on the charts here, Matt?
I got them very similar, both in neutral patterns within overall uptrend. So it's kind of a wait and see approach on both. I like both companies. I like the space, but what they said in their downgrade, and who was it? It was Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer does a pretty good job at detailing their upgrades and downgrades. And what they said in their downgrade, I think, is accurate. They said we are increasingly concerned that the market is becoming too lax towards chances of a post-COVID-19 sales growth downshift. And so we've seen massive money coming into these types of infrastructure stocks like Home Depot and Lowe's, with the stay at home and, money and people still making money, and then the stimulus checks and all of that. I mean, raise your hand if you've been here at a Lowe's or a Home Depot in the last 5 months, doing home, projects.
Oh, yeah, plenty of times.
Every one of us, right?
Yeah.
So, I think what they said in their downgrade is accurate, that I think we should be increasingly concerned that the marketplace is not pricing in the risk of additional stimulus. And, I said on Twitter the other day, I said, can we finally put to bed the V-shaped economic recovery debate? Because it's not in the cards. It's not transpiring. We're not seeing it in the data. I mean, how long did we talk about, the second and the third quarter being so important? And if all these economic projections were to come, to fruition, we would see that data coming into the fall, and we're just not seeing that data coming into the fall. And not only are we not seeing the data coming into the fall from an economic perspective, you got increasingly concerned about more shutdowns because you have rising COVID transmissions in the last 5 days, with the average going up over time. You have Israel coming out and doing a second lockdown from a COVID perspective. So, there's obvious concern here. And without the government coming out with fiscal stimulus, where's the money going to come from to continually push price up and to continue to see retail sales numbers improve and to continually see manufacturing data improve? Where's that going to come from if it's not from an economic recovery perspective? So I think what Oppenheimer said today in terms of the downgrades, I agree with those downgrades.
Yeah,
They didn't downgrade to a sell. They downgraded to a market perform from an outperform, and I think that's the appropriate way to go about it.
No, I mean, analysts oftentimes the stuff they put out is so blah blah, right? But this was really good. I thought their analysis was just great, and you hit on most of it. But like, if you think about it, in a post-COVID world, in the pre-COVID world, everything was flooded with stimulus, and Home Depot and Lowe's sales were tremendous because, like, you couldn't go on cruises and you couldn't go on that family vacation and you couldn't go to the movie theaters and you couldn't. So not only did people have more money, where they spent their money, and the Target CEO talked about this. Target CEO is like, we really benefited from this environment, and it's probably not sustainable at these rates of growth because we were one of the beneficiaries of where people were spending their money. And I think Oppenheimer nailed it. I think and plus a lot of people, I mean, how many lawnmowers? You don't need to buy a lawnmower every year. A lot of people got home projects done during COVID. I mean, COVID low is always going to be around. People always going to be spending money. But at the blowout numbers that they had, I thought it was brilliant analysis. And I think it's warrants a little caution at these price levels.
Yeah, I do as well. And obviously, we're seeing some of that rotate in the trend, as it's kind of moving into a neutral range. A little caution there as we're watching those price actions develop. Last one from a news item, Matt, for me is Texas Instrument. Marky, I thought this one would grab your attention, right? Dividend upgrade.
I thought it would grab the market's attention more than it did.
It did not. It did not. They popped the dividend, what, Matt, to 102, per share?
They increased it from 90 cents to $1.02 a share. So they increased their dividend. Mark, I mean, it tried to break out earlier, but it's came down the same way what the market does.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the dividend is nice here. I mean, what is $4 here? What is that? Like just south of 3%, if I'm doing my math in my head right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not nothing, right? 3% nothing.
Yeah.
But it's not like oh my gosh, this is no. I mean, it's just one of those. It's a nice Texas Instrument, great company, right? They'll be increasing their dividend hopefully for a long time. But I mean, a decent company, a reasonable rate, it gets really reasonable. You get down into the low 120s, right? So yeah, it's not enough to sustain the trend. It's going to go with probably the rest of tech here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if you're a dividend investor, probably and continue to keep Texas
Oh, if you
Instruments
own
on
Texas
you're
Instrument
not.
shares,
If you're an
Yeah.
investor in Texas, you're not getting out.
you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything.
I
Yeah.
mean,
All right.
no, investors, especially dividend investors, they're very stubborn like that.
It is
They are.
Friday. Emily will start screaming at me if we do not get to Frank's charts at some point here. It's the only reason why she comes and hangs out with us on Friday, I believe.
Hey, I
You
appreciate it,
saw me
Emily.
unmute my mic so that you
Oh,
know.
before we
Yeah.
do, I just had one other headline that you guys didn't cover, just because I thought it was funny. JP Morgan turned bearish on Beyond Meat, downgrading it to underperform. And the headline they used is their valuation is beyond rational. So
Oh, analyst getting a little saucy there.
yes,
Okay.
analysts getting a little saucy at JP Morgan.
Don't have too much fun, guys.
So,
No, we're gonna have a damn good time here, actually, Frankie. It's one of our favorite segments of the week as we go through this halftime report on a daily basis. Always look forward to Friday. I know you got some charts. I follow you on Twitter. I love what you're doing over there. I loved it for a very long time. I saw
Appreciate it.
Cummins and Yelp and Mosaic. But what else you got over there, my friend? What you been looking at?
Well, I definitely got a few on take a peek at. Before we do, though, Cody, if you don't mind throwing in the link to the trial for Dante, we can get you going, Dante. So there's a technical analysis 101 course at Tackle Trading. Let's get you set up with a free trial would be what I would say. And then join me on Monday night for our onboarding webinar. I'll walk you through the site. So I'm sure Cody will put that in the chat for you. And hope to see you there. But that course is a really good place to start if you're looking about learning to read charts.
Agreed. And Dante, very quickly, also make sure you set up a one-on-one appointment with Coach Frank. And so you'll have some time to hang out with Coach Frank to walk you through the website, walk you through all the different products you have available to you from an education perspective. Familiarize yourself with our webinar schedule that we do over there at Tackle Trading as well. So definitely, Dante, we'll take care of you, brother.
Sure. Hope to see you. Hope to see you.
Mhm.
And Matt just answered David in the chat. It's a good day to lean toward a more neutral delta portfolio. And Matt says it's important today. I would agree with Matt. Before we look at charts, Tim, Mark, M, what's your take there?
I've already done that. Yeah.
I think this
for
is
sure
a good time.
It's one of those times.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to hedge. It's the weekend test, right? So Mark's got his sleep test. I have my weekend test.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, and very quickly before we do get to Frank's picks here, again, stop me if you've heard this week. A very important moment for the marketplace.
Yeah, boy,
Right.
isn't that yep.
Very important moment for the market is right this second. You're seeing a bearish retracement on the 5-minute chart, kissing off that 3,300 level. This market, the close the next 2 hours is obviously going to be very, very important. But this looks like a bearish retracement here in a retest. And if it can't reclaim that $3,300 level,
Not a great look.
It's not a great look.
It's not a good look. No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. All right. I appreciate that, John. All right. You guys ready to rock and roll?
We're
Yeah.
ready, dude. Absolutely. 100%.
All right. Let's start with a couple on the bull side. Let's start with Kohl's, KSS.
By the way, we all have hope, right?
We all have hope.
I don't want the market to break support.
I would rather it didn't.
I don't think anybody wants that, but you got to be prepared.
You got to be ready for it. Yep.
Yeah. Cole's here. Little reversal
breakout
pattern.
25.
So little
Yeah.
breakout, you know, we've played pretty good defense throughout the course of the week. We're hanging right at resistance. We've got that rising 9 pushing, or at least potentially pushing us up. Not a lot of resistance until we get to that 200-day moving average, at least to my eyes, lines up with that old pivot from back in the day pretty nicely. So risk to reward should be there if we could get a little bit of a breakout on coals. So I got any takers on coals?
I see it for sure. I would not fault somebody for taking it. Department store, Kohl's. I would probably look elsewhere personally, but I would not veto this setup at $24 on a breakout.
I have sold puts on Kohl's in the COVID time. Like, so Kohl's has been like one of the few retail stores that are discounted that I've sold. I like Kohl's as a company. I like it in its space. Like the chart, like how it's performed. You know, because it didn't have a great earnings like a lot of companies, and stuck support.
Yeah.
Most earnings just stuck it, like,
Yeah,
just like that
1850
gymnast that does the
level.
backflip
Yeah.
and sticks it in the Olympics. It just stuck support. And that's a really strong sign. Didn't even mess around. So a breakout here. I think it is one of the few retail companies that are still beat up that I personally support. You know, it's going to be around. It's well capitalized, and that's a pretty chart on a breakout. So I'm a strong yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it.
What do you think, Em?
I'll take it for two reasons. Well, number one, it's been on my watch list that I've kind of ignored for a while, and Frank just reminded me that I did pay it a visit last Friday with my son, and we did drop a few bucks there, so I have to get my money back.
Taking the Noah approach.
So
No,
thanks for the
I
reminder,
mean,
Frank.
all I heard was you're taking Noah approach. Are you front running him?
No, I'm not gonna front run it, but I do need to make my money back because my son did make me drop.
Oh,
a few-
okay,
a
okay.
Yeah, see,
few- a
that's the
couple
Noah
of-
approach. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Noah
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and Ulta Beauty. Anytime Noah goes to Ulta, he's coming back to trade that stock.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
single
yeah.
time.
Every single time. Another breakout that I'm a big fan of is Lennar, LEN. Had their earnings this week, gapped down, pretty wild day on its earnings, fought back the last 3 days, banging its head at a very clear level of resistance. Could I talk anybody into a breakout play here on Lennar? Or could I talk anyone out of one?
No, that's the better question right there. You know, I saw a question in the chat here regarding when we were talking about the downgrade in Lowe's and Home Depot, and I forget who asked the question, so I apologize. But they asked a question about, you know, how does that impact some of the other housing stocks? And I was going to say it doesn't really. I mean, the housing stocks have been doing really, really, really well, and they've held up a little bit. They're all going a little bit neutral, but I love the potential breakout of $80 here on Lennar. There's not a lot of resistance above that. Obviously, you got a very clean trigger right above a significant whole number at $80. I think you could trigger right above that 80 and you know, run with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like the way that it's developed this week. I like when things do the, you know, they have that initial response to earnings and then they say, oh, that was dumb, and they fight back. We've seen a lot. We're even holding up today, right? In the midst of a lot of selling, especially over the last little bit, really holding up nicely. So they'll be on my radar going into next week. I brought them up last week. I'm probably going to bring them up every week until I have a reason not to. And that's Xerox. You know, they're sideways. They're hanging at resistance. They've not broke it. I said it last week. I'll say it again. They probably won't break it this week either because it's a really good level of resistance at approximately $20. But if we can break that, to me, that should be a pretty strong signal to the bullish side.
Yeah, I'm a yes on Lennar. I like it. And Xerox here that you're talking about. Give me XRX if you can, Matt. You did bring this one up last week, and I believe the week before, and bringing it up again. I think my analysis will be the same. I can't fault anybody for wanting to take a breakout trigger here. And the longer it goes sideways, I get.
Well, I mean, it's holding up really strong in market
Yeah.
volatility, right? So
Yeah.
like if the markets pop or they stabilize, yeah, another company I have a naked put on right now.
Mm-hmm. Maddie, what's your analysis on Xerox?
Yeah, you know, with the weakness in tech this week and really the last couple weeks and breaking down that support, I think I kind of have a feeling like I want a bottom feed here. Does anybody else have that same emotion?
Listen.
Well, this
When
horse-
who was it? Who was the guy that came on board up their stakes?
Oh, it was
Carl
Icon.
Icahn.
Icon.
Yeah, so like, listen, I'm not smarter than Icon. I would already like the technical stability over the last 6 months of Xerox. Icon comes on,
Well, and Icon knows how to cash flow. So
yeah, it's not an unreasonable dividend payer either, right? I think in about 4.2% or so. So
Yeah.
I think if you can clear that 20 level, Frankie,
I think you got to. And I think that's tough. I mean, it's proven to be tough.
You don't want to front run it. 20's been proven to play a significant role here. But if you can, I mean, for the first time trying to test that 20 level, you have some consolidation going into it. You had a V-shaped recovery here going into it. You were overextended. You had a nice little recovery here for 5 straight weeks. You were overextended going into it. Now you have a little bit of 3-4 week consolidation, really establishing a higher level of support as you try to test that $20 mark. I like it now more than I've liked it at any point that we've discussed it in the past. I'm starting to really kind of see that $20, and I think you could reasonably target 22 here.
yeah, I mean, you want to target below the falling 200, right, on a swing
Yeah.
trade or a position trade. So
Yeah, I think that's a very sensible target. That's quite a bit of room on a Xerox. So I don't know if they're ever going to break. Resistance might just ultimately win. It's won every battle so far, right? Not outlandish to expect it to win the next one.
I mean,
but
that is a long
it's a lot of
consolidation
resistance.
pattern.
Yeah,
Well, it's a
that's-
long consolidation pattern, could be
Yeah,
explosive if it breaks.
Yeah.
And you do have this right here at 1960 in the short term during the last few weeks of consolidation. So, and I don't care about this tick that was on the cash open tick, but you do have that level right there at 1960 that if you were aggressive, you could be like, all right, I like the pattern. I'm going to take the risk. Let me trigger above 1960 here. It's clearly acting as an intraday resistance and a daily resistance over the last 3 weeks. But ultimately, that $20 mark, you still gotta handle that $20 mark. So 1960, I could see a trigger, very aggressive trigger above 1960. The confirmation would be above $20 though.
Yeah, I think I want to be sure, and I'm a wimp, so I know not everybody's me, but I want to be darn good and sure that
You want 20,
when everybody sees it, they say, "Oh, Xerox broke out," right? And so
and that's 20.
And maybe it's the break and the pullback, right? That might be the way that this one plays out. Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. That resistance is not guaranteed to be broken.
No, it's not.
So certainly not any there. A couple more. How about Six Flags? We got a nice little pinch developing on these guys, Mark. I found these guys just for you. I know I brought them up to you a couple of weeks ago in the distressed list. Ran right into that 200-day moving average, got pushed back down, still above the rising 9, so a little bit of a pinch developing. If we could come out of that pinch to the upside, could I interest anybody in a bullish play? Say, we'll just call it above the 200 just for easy purposes.
I need another week of consolidation for me personally.
Needed to pinch harder.
I
you
need
want
it
it
to
to-
pinch harder.
I see.
On the 9 and a whole week, ooh, that's tough. It can happen, but not much movement has to occur between now and
Yeah, that's getting tight. I see it, Frankie. I'm with you. My concern on the breakout of the 200 here is left of the chart. You're smack dab at 27.85. So definitely see it aggressive. You could get there. I do think if Mark gets his next week of consolidation, the breakout is stronger.
so
It's an if. It's a big if.
that's a big if. That's a big if. I mean, it probably will come out of that pinch within a week, one way or the other. But
I mean, the one thing I will say though, it's been a while since we had a strong vaccine day. We've had, a handful, half dozen of those really strong vaccine days in the last 6 months. It's been a while, right? Where there is that, oh my gosh, vaccine tech down.
Not going to happen. You're not going to get a vaccine day. Get it out of your
vaccine days are over.
Yeah, we haven't seen any evidence in the last month of how vaccine pushes the market.
But there's gonna, like, listen, it's like the drug addict. Eventually it's gonna be a strong kid and great news on a vaccine. And I mean,
I think the drug addict knows the drug's coming.
So I hope. I miss karaoke.
Frank, I like this, but it's a pass for me. They're far more interesting stocks than Six Flags for me, but I like it. I see it, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
hey,
pick it.
fair enough. You can't take them all, right? You can't take
No.
them all. What about CMI? We'll look one more bull and then we'll look at a couple bears.
I'm going to go first on this one. I love this breakout potential up here, Frank. And industrials are kind of showing the strength right now. I'm a yes here personally. 100% yes for me.
Where's your trigger?
Sign me up.
There's a lot. Yeah, go down to that
let's-
intraday. That's a good question, Marky. I mean, 214, and change there. 215. Matty, where would you trigger?
Nah, you
Let's
need to close
see.
above 215.
215.
And
Yeah.
and the reason I say you need to close above 215 is you got some wicks you got to be concerned with on an aggressive trigger on the breakout here. So for me, I definitely see it, but I think 215 is the easy number here. You see it close above 215, you trigger above an intraday resistance after that.
I agree.
So that's kind of where I just think the analysis leads to that. If you had like on the Xerox chart for a second, just to do a little bit of a cross comparison on the breakout here, I think you could put an order above $20 and feel pretty comfortable with it. If it breaks out at $20, you want to get into it. Because of the cleanness of this potential 1960 mark, you have a very clean chart right underneath 1960. Whereas on CMI, you got some choppy action as it approaches those intraday resistance levels. And so because of the little bit of a chop, especially over the last 4 days now, somebody could easily point out, well, Matt, the last 4 days in the market have been kind of scary and it's kind of held up. Yes, I agree. That gives me more confidence in it, but I still don't like the choppiness of the relationship between the body and the wick necessary enough to trigger aggressively. So I prefer personally a close above 215, trigger above intraday, but this is not getting vetoed in this scouting report meeting. It's going to get passed through.
Yep.
It's just in a strong area of the market, right?
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah, and while they might need some development with the price action this week, definitely worth keeping an eye on some of those chemical stocks,
Definitely.
for sure. I lied. Let's do one more bull, and then we'll look at the bears. This one's for you, Noah. It's MasterCard. So Noah was talking about these guys on his Wednesday night webinar. They've held support, they've tested resistance, they've been pushed down, but haven't tested support. And I'm going to put some qualifiers on this one. If we put in a higher low on MasterCard than that little double bottom that we see that was down there, at 326, 326. If we put in a higher low and take out the weekly high, or basically the last two highs, right at approximately 345, could I sign anybody up for a bullish play on MasterCard in that scenario?
I mean, it's a tad relatively stronger than the market, right? And so, compared to market strength, but man, I would have to have the market confirm above its resistance heights too to feel confident, or at least trade in a pattern. I mean, I see what you're seeing, right? I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean,
Stock.
credit services look a lot like this. I mean, if you flash through a bunch of them here,
It
and
looks worse than this.
yeah, I've been looking at Visa, kind of similar.
Yeah,
in
Visa's
that way.
fairly similar type of a
MA.
pattern.
PayPal breaking down, American Express kind of waiting for something to happen.
I've got AXP on my breakout list, but I need them to break out of these highs. They're ways away. Yeah, I actually like them quite a bit, but we need
110
movement.
breakout makes sense on American
we need
Express.
we got room to run before then.
It's hard to see MasterCard breaking out without the market confirming here for me. So, I mean, it's really kind of stuck in that same type of pattern that the market was. It's slightly better than that. It's better than the market.
Let me play devil's advocate. Let's assume for a moment that we hold this support, right? Which is an assumption at this point in time. And the market once again bounces off of support. Could that change your opinion?
No, absolutely. If the market holds support, confirms 3,300 is still a viable support level, absolutely 100%. You're looking at MasterCard as the breakout of the 20-day moving average at that point. And if the market holds support, and that's an if right now, we're in that precarious moment in the market. But if that does occur, yes, the breakout is legit here. No doubt about that, Frank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm a fan if that happens. There's a lot of ifs in that MasterCard.
Well,
for
we're
sure.
talking about the market violating a support level right now. Yes, there's ifs in the right?
Yes, yeah, there's going to be a couple. There will be a couple. All right, and a couple on the bearish side here. Let's start with travelers. This is an interesting one to me, at least. TRV.
Little 110 break.
I've got
Little
the break
110
of one.
violation.
I've got the break at 110 now. I think a more aggressive trader than me would say
Right.
we could, come
111.
in. Yeah, 111. I would say I'm a wimp, so let's take out that support level. Along the way, we've been making these lower highs. We're not really seeing a lot of production in this chart as of late. Break below 110, maybe not necessarily for an entry, but for a signal. Would that be on anybody's radar?
I like the lower lows. I like it hasn't broken the 200-day moving average despite it trying to test it in multiple different efforts. Constantly putting pressure on resistance, trying to hold that support level. If the dam breaks, everybody looking at this is gonna be like, oh no. So yes, I do see it.
There's not much there if it breaks, for sure. I see that, especially on the weekly chart.
I mean, I look at things from a buying perspective when I look to short or whatever, and there's no way I'd buy the support bounce. So
Yeah, that's that's kind of where.
so,
Not
I mean,
with
that-
resistance levels decreasing.
Yeah, exactly. I
No.
mean, everything Matt said about the lack of 200. I mean, and so I'd be like, there's not a chance I'd buy this. There's not a chance I'd sell a naked put on it with, even if I love it. Let's say I love Travelers. So it's like, oh my gosh, Travelers is my favorite company. I still wouldn't sell a naked put because that is a huge, massive pocket of clear air. So yeah, so it passes my short test.
So all right, hey, if I pass Mark's
Now,
test,
it may
he's a
not
tough
pass
sell.
through, right? He is a tough sell on the
He's a tough
short
sell.
side of it. There's going to be some good shorting opportunities, so it'll be interesting to see if it passes through the final cut in the scatter report meeting.
Right.
It absolutely will be. And how about CENX, Century Aluminum?
Ooh, a little M formation,
Double-
break of 9, target 8.
These
Right,
guys are
Support
really
in the 50-day. Yeah, that's a nice short.
well. And this, if you look at this on a weekly, it's the smack down off of the weekly 200 and breaking below the 9 as we speak for the first time in quite some time. A lot of weakness this week here in CENX.
Mark's going to geek out on that 200-day moving average on the weekly chart holding.
I know my Mark.
Yeah, he's gonna geek out on that.
Dude, that's $1.30 of clear air on this stock, which is what, 16%. That's a good short.
Yeah.
I think you got to target 8.
Yeah, I think that's
still a good trade though.
yeah, I think that's it. I definitely think that's an interesting one. Nicholas brought up work. If it
Slack.
were
I
to
saw
break
Slack's been
down,
slacking.
it has been slacking. So Nick, you're looking at a break of, what did you say? If it breaks a break below support to 20. Depends. I think this is one that needs another week of development. If we kind of work back down to that support, let that 9 creep down on us and push below that support, I could definitely be interested. If this breaks on Monday morning, that probably means the market's tanking. I'm probably preferring just rolling with the Qs or looking elsewhere. But a week from now, ask the same question. So maybe could be something on my personal radar.
Yeah, the gap down on earnings was strong enough. And once again, it's like those descending moving averages. I mean, like on the ACB chart we were looking at earlier, they slowly pushed it down. That 20-day still, so for me in this situation after a strong gap down, give it a couple weeks and then maybe have something. I mean, I had Slack puts expire today. And I didn't re-up them because the technical chart is precarious, right? I love the $20 potential support level, but the short-term technical chart is pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But it becomes really ugly if that 20-day moving average really catches up and gets down there. But that's probably about 8-9 trading sessions away.
Yeah, I think this one is to get a really clean pattern. I think you need another week. I wouldn't buy it, but I think we can wait a little bit. And then one more. Why not? AYX. I'm not even going to try to say their name. Alterix. I guess it's not that hard. So had the big, just disastrous earnings, right? Tried to establish itself. Did have a nice fight back for a couple of days. I'm not sure if there was news there or not. Here we are once again hanging by a thread at support. If we were to break down, do we see some downward potential here?
Yeah,
I'd take that.
it's been developing a lot longer in that consolidation as well. So definitely, I can see it. From a left of the chart perspective as well. If you get below this support, you don't really have anything till about $80. So it's a flyer.
Yeah, I
frankly.
mean, you're looking at
I'm gonna
I'd say 92 would be my first. 86 would be my target range.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see a lot of chop to the left, actually. I see chop at 90. I see chop at 97. I see chop at 90. I see chop at 80. I don't know. I kind of like some of the other cleaner ones a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I'll save the rest for the scanning report meeting. I'm sure any that are worth mentioning will get to our pro team here before the weekend's through.
It's one of my
everybody loves the work and the time you put into not only make these Friday little moments really nice, but Frank brings a ton of picks to our scouting report meeting every week that we hold.
Other coaches.
You know,
Frank does so much work. The other coach is like, do I really?
Why
even
bother?
Need
Right.
That's right. I don't mind doing it. I have a good time doing
Frank,
it.
So. Frank, I think your official moniker should be the technician. We have Tyler Craig, the architect. I think the technician suits you very well.
See, I think I'm stuck with the tank for better
Frank's
or worse.
It is Frank the tank, and that is not changing.
Yeah.
I like it.
But I appreciate it, Mark.
There's too much history of me and Frank doing Frank the Tank stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm stuck with that one. I earned it.
Listen, my face still hurts. You've earned it.
Oh, I didn't hit him that hard. He's
You
exaggerating.
hit me with a 25 plastic box of laundry detergent square in the face one night.
No one can say for sure if it was full.
For those of us that didn't get to see it, I would like to see a reenactment of that. I would really love to see that.
Hey, listen, I can make that happen for you, Em. I'm more than happy to. I don't know if Matt will sign up, but I'm good with it.
I don't know if we can rekindle that magic that led to that occurring.
Yeah, that was that might just be a one-time thing.
Yeah. It's got to be a memory for sure. All right, guys. As I'm watching the market here, we're about an hour and a half from the trading day closing here on quadruple witching Friday. Which I could care less about, but markets are really testing this 3,300 level, guys. They dipped below it there for a few minutes, rattled back.
They wanted above 3,300 so bad.
They would love to close. Hey, listen, didn't we? Was it last Friday or the Friday before where we had that nonsense? Like, let's just rally on Friday so we don't have to worry about it over the 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
So that was 2 weeks ago. Remember that, where we just it just rallied because it's like, hey, there's crap here, but we will worry about it another day. Let's, so hey, let's have a little rally above 3,300. So all of us perma bulls can be like, all right, hey, it's all good. We'll deal with the nonsense next week.
Do you remember what happened after that 3-day weekend?
Oh, listen, but we got a 3-day weekend, right? It doesn't eliminate reality. It just suspends it so we can go do what we're going to do.
Yeah. Let's start moving into final thoughts here from everybody. Emily, as always, welcome back to Halftime Report. We love having you come in on Friday when Frank's here. I know why you come and do it. You've got women in trading tonight, though, and I loved your blog today, by the way, on finding your why. It was just fantastic. Really, really good writer. If you guys don't follow the Women in Trading blog or even any of the content she's put out there on Tackle Trading, definitely would recommend it. Emily, any final thoughts from you there?
Pretty much the same as always, what we've talked about, especially with the market testing and breaking down at that 50 EMA, is to just, take caution, look to protect your long-term portfolios if you haven't done so already, and prepare for if the market does break down. Dina and I were talking yesterday and we were saying how it's like watching a football game where you really don't have a team you're rooting for. You're just kind of watching to see, but you want to see them score. So I want to see if the Bulls are going to score. I want to see if the Bears are going to score so we can make a decision and move on.
Marky, you're up, sir.
Well, I have my Friday at the Market Bell where we go over the commodities, going to go over copper and gold and silver and oil and natural gas, in 30 minutes here for pro members. And then I'll have, final trade adjustments. It'll be interesting to see where the market is in the next hour plus. And so I'll share a lot of those with you. Have a good weekend, right? you know, do the Frank's weekend test, whether my sleep test or Frank's weekend test. You want trading to be a tool and investing to be a tool to get to your financial dreams. You do not want it to be a tool for short-term stress. And so that's a nice little breakout of the 1 minute chart.
Fighting back. Yeah.
It is
We all just start staring. It's quiet.
A nice little breakout of the 1 minute chart. No, so like, listen, you know, it's about, you know, if you're not over leveraged and you're responsibly doing things, then you're going to have a good weekend regardless of what the market closes on Friday, right? Investing is a long game, short trading is a short game management. Just pass that weekend or that sleep test so you can live life and have trading, investing be a tool to help you live a better life.
I love it. The
Well
weekend test. I like that, Frankie. Frankie, final thoughts. You're up, sir.
I don't know if I can beat what Mark just said. You know, trade smart. I mean, keep an eye. I mean, this is an important one. You know, there's no doubt. You know, at support, not looking great, but that 1 minute chart, there's still some fight left in these bulls. I still think before getting too aggressive, we do need to break resistance. But I said it in the chat, you know, if we hold this and see some upward movement and try to bounce off that next week, and I'm not going to be looking to bottom feeders. I'm going to be looking to you know, things that are showing some strength, right? So you know, be open to, because it could go either way, right? Going into early next week, neither would surprise me. So you know, be open to swing trades in either direction, and let the market tell you where you should go.
Maddie.
I just think I'm on this 1 minute chart, and I very rarely go down to a 1 minute chart, but I'm so fixated on that 3,300 level. And I don't think I'm the only one staring at that 3,300 level.
Probably not. That's probably pretty popular right now.
You know, you look at this on that 1 minute chart, ding, 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 ding. Look at that just consolidate there. People who think algorithms don't play a role here are just so cute. But just look at that, just cling to that 3,300 level. It's such an important level. And I think it's psychologically so important coming into it. But there's going to be a lot to said on that Sunday futures open here. A lot of what we think is going to happen on Monday is going to be, you know, in that market on Sunday night. So I maintain what I said earlier this week. I think I said it yesterday, actually. That futures market on Sunday is going to be very, very vital for the beginning of this week. And it's always important. There's no doubt about that. But when you're sitting in at this moment in time, clinging on to the life support of 3,300, you know, to see how the market behaves after 2 days of, hey guys, let's take a break, because the rest of the market, guys, most of the market is bullish. And most of tackle's bullish. We're mostly bullish. And so because of that, these moments in time, they're a little stressful during the last 3 days, right? Especially the last 2 days, seeing tech break the 11,000 mark, seeing the tech plays, you know, get blown up over the last week and a half. Shockingly, I haven't heard from a single Robinhood trader in like 2 weeks. I haven't heard from one of them in like 2 weeks, because it's a difficult market right now. It's not, like I said earlier this week, the easy money was made. Now you got to be patient. And so I think, you know, we're all looking at that 3,300 level. I think some degree of neutrality is important going into the weekend this week, and reassess on Sunday. And my last thought is this, Sam. You know, as you and I have been texting back and forth during the halftime report,
Tim says that you don't multitask, and they have no idea what you do behind the scenes.
They have zero clue. They have zero clue.
If you call it multitasking, I would call it something different.
Listen. If did I not do my job today?
You did wonderful today.
Text message. I handled the chat function, and I did the analysis. Come on, you can't say I'm bad at multitasking. But I will tell you, Em, your text message. You are my bad boy. Right.
You know that.
Right. Me and Em, that's our thing, you know, and yes, for those of you who don't know, me and Em, we love Bad Boys, right? Bad Boys is our thing.
Our thing.
And I play a wonderful Martin Lawrence's to Will Smith's Emily. I play a wonderful Martin Lawrence in that capacity, Emily. So I am watching all 3 Bad Boys, because Bad Boys, the latest one, just came out on Stars, and I'm going to watch that too. So I got a full day planned. I get to watch golf. I get to hang out with the crew in the scouting report meeting. Man, I got a whole thing at Home Depot planned tomorrow. You know, remind me of old school Frank the Tank.
Yeah.
Oh man, like I got this whole thing. My next 72 hours is locked in. I'm going to hang out and have some fun.
When
Nice.
you get to Bad Boys 3 and you get to the airplane scene, make sure you give me a call so we can chuckle at that.
Oh, I guarantee there will be some text messages every time the police commissioner's like woosah, and Martin Luther's like because that's Emily's favorite thing to send to me whenever I get a little hot. Like Emily's always sending me a text, woosah, Matt, woosah, Matt.
Is Bad Boys a movie or something?
Go
Shut
home.
up. Oh my God.
Oh,
I
anyway.
can't. Nobody does make me so
I
much
can't do it.
SMHs
I
like
can't
you.
do it. I know I can't. Try talking to him for like 8 hours a day. I can't do it anymore.
I don't know how you do it.
I've enjoyed the conversation here today, and obviously all the
Like-
way through the week. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I wasn't done, Tim. I was like literally earlier, Tim. I'm like, hey, Tim, did you watch Biden's town hall? He's like, oh, Biden had a town hall. I'm like, Tim, did you watch the NBA game? Oh, was there? Who's in the NBA?
Who's in the
playoffs? This is me and Tim's conversation. Me just talking about everything that's happening in the world, and Tim's being like, oh, that's happening.
Well, who is in the NBA conference?
I'm not
finals, man?
talking.
Oh Lord.
Um,
Oh my God.
Oh, say lovely.
Listen, I don't blame you, Tim.
Hey,
It's football season. Who's thinking about basketball, right?
Tim,
Oh
your
Lord.
birthday was 2 days ago. You open up your mouth one more time, I'm joining the party.
No more birthday
Mark,
love.
I knew
Mark,
Mark had a
Mark, you
reprieve
should've
on
joined-
Tim. I knew
Mark,
it.
it's okay. You can come in. It's been 48 hours. It's time.
So,
It's
Yeah,
Friday.
it's not Tim's birthday week. That's not how it
Nope.
works.
Nope.
I thought that was how it works.
Listen, I'll sign up
Not
for
for
it,
you.
Tim.
It's the month of Tim. It's the month of Tim. All right. No, had a lot of fun this week, guys, out there. And I love the conversations around education. I think it was, what was Dante earlier asking about what to do with some losing positions and whatnot. Guys, simple. Education before application. It's a mantra we have here at Tackle Trading. We've had to do that. Every trader out there has had to do that. You live through difficult market conditions and you want to be at a place where you're at peace and you've got that Zen-like attitude towards it, because you honestly shouldn't care whether the market holds right here today or not. The market will develop opportunities next week, one way or the other. You trade what you get, you trade what you see, and let the market conditions dictate themselves. We're not in charge of those algos or the big money that ends up moving the market. Watch for your levels, watch for your trading signals, and just be prepared. I've always said that, and I do think it is that kind of week to be prepared for whatever's going to be coming down that pipeline next week. As of right now, we got about an hour and 26 minutes here in the trading day. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm not turning this one off until the market's closed today. I'll tell you that.
We'll be
This-
staring.
This is not one where you
Yeah.
leave the office early, I don't think. So
I feel like it's pegged to 3,300 right now.
it's feeling stuck for sure.
Feels like a magnet, yeah.
Anything can happen in the next hour and a half, but I kind of feel like we're going to look back an hour and a half later and be like, oh, wow, that just didn't want to do anything. Like everybody took the weekend off.
Yeah. Other than that, guys, if you are not yet a member of our community, there's always a 15-day trial link in the comments below. We'd love you to have you come join us. And Frankie, you do the onboarding. If you do sign up for the 15-day trial, guys, make sure you set up and schedule that one-on-one appointment through onboarding. And Frank, you spend like a half an hour with every new trader, kind of walking them through the
Oh
site.
yeah, more
usually
than
a little
happy
bit
to.
long.
Yeah, more than happy to. So yeah, be my pleasure.
Looking forward to it. All right, guys, we are out for today.
let's see,
Wonderful
pro
job out
members,
there.
25 minutes over in the Market Bell class.
Fantastic. All right, guys, we're out. We'll see you guys next Monday.
Have a great weekend, all.